I want to look at match self. It's something that I misunderstood or I didn't really take the time to understand a while back. So I'm just going to really concentrate on that now. So um, vehicle, vehic, cd to vehic. NV is my shortcut for near them. See here, right. What we'll do is make a struct and we call it vehicle, and we'll give it cost F32. We'll give it a vehicle type, which will be an enum, which we need to make type, and we'll also do notes, which we'll just say is a vec of strings. Okay, so far so good, and it's telling us that vehicle type is, so we'll do enum vehicle type, and we'll just create a car, van, and for you American fans out there, we'll call it a truck. In England, people call it a lorry for some reason. Right, what we need to do next is, well, we don't need to, but what I want to do is do an impl fmt display. So we're going to implement format display for our vehicle. Do you notice how it's imported use core format? I don't know whether core or stud makes a slight bit of difference. For vehicle. Then if we go down, we'll do fn. Then it offers us auto completion on that, which is quite nice. Let me get the size of the font right. There we go. That should be right. Here we need to use write. I've often in the past made the mistake of using format, but write macro f, which is the formatter, and then we do the actual the layout of what we want to print. So we'll do the price. Actually, we want to do the price first, don't we? Do dollars. That dollar there is just the string of the cost. Then we'll do the notes. So that just go like that. Another separator. So then we'll actually pass in the self.v type, which there's a gotcha in a second, and that's part of why I wanted to make this video, is to kind of capture this and discuss it, and see if any comments would be cool or so. So this won't work. I know, because I've tried it several times, and this is why I'm kind of covering it. So self cost was first, wasn't it? Self.cost, self.v type, and then self.notes. And it's complaining because vehicle type doesn't implement stud format display. I don't know if notes need, I don't think notes shouldn't need it. Anyway, let's start with the impl format display, display for vehicle type, which is our enum. Let's just bring this up a bit. There we go. Right, so FN, FMT, why is that not off? Oh, it helps if you spell display right. My typing's shocking, apologies for that. Right, FN, FN, while you've got the N there, accept that. Right, this should be simpler because we're just doing a match self. So in fact, we need to prepare the string first. I'm just going to put in like a placeholder, and then type of string. That's what we'll return, but before we need to prepare the type of string. This is where we say let the type of string equal, then match self. And this is commonly used when you have an enum and then you use match self on the enum because it's either going to be a car, van, or a truck. So then we pass in the actual, get it from there, can't I? And we're just going to return a string, so we can just say car. What this is doing is preparing it's basically converting the enum to text, which is printable. So I understand it. Vehicle type truck. So just put the semicolon after that. So now we've got a type underscore stir, which is the object, which we can format with write macro, which then we can use up here, I thought. And why is this? Let me just look in my notes because this isn't. Oh, yeah. So we can, because it's a string, we can just use the standard debug there. So, okay. Because we've used it there, when we actually use our, I'll show you. So when we go down here, we won't actually need to use the std debug. Sorry, sneezing's not not a good look on a YouTube video, is it? Apologies. Let VEH equal vehicle, and then we want the cost. Let's say 10,000. It's way too cheap, but right. So V type can be car and notes. We'll do a new vec and we'll just pass in red to string, pass in something else as well. Um, 2 years old. I know you'd probably have age as a as well, but okay. So when we come to print it, we can just print with curly braces. We don't need the colon and the question mark. Let's just turn off allow unused. I would do it from here. So go run. There you see, we've got a $10,000 car, red, 2 years old. So what we've done here is we've used an enum, vehicle type, car, van, or truck, which then effectively goes up here. Then our vehicle, our struct, or instance of our struct has got a vehicle type, which has got to be one of these three. And then we have to prepare that. We use this here, so we prepare it. We say let type stir equal match self. So if you don't remember anything else from this video, just remember match self is commonly used with enums. I even checked that with ChatGPT and it agreed with me, which is always nice. I don't fully trust ChatGPT. I read something today about caching, and I think that even ChatGPT caches lots of questions, and it has, if the questions are very similar, say if I've asked a question and somebody else has already asked a similar question, it will look in the cache first and it will return almost a standard reply. Obviously, it's a bit more finesse than that, but I still think that there's part of that happening. So careful the way you ask the questions, because if you ask a question that is almost certainly been asked a million times before, it's probably going to give you a stock answer rather than actually understand what you've asked it. You know, your question might just be very slightly different. So I asked it about match self, and it just went off on a big 2 pages telling me about match. And you know, I do know about match now. Match self in particular, that I was trying to ascertain common use cases for, and it just gave me pages of match. The other thing, which if I tell you the things that I forget, then it might be also things that you forget. So I actually don't use the impl display format display that often. I was thinking it was format. I think in my memory I'd remembered formatter, and I was trying to use format there. If you use format there, because format doesn't kind of get carried over, it just see that you got the error. So use the macro right, and if there's any way you can remember to use right with the display impl format display for and right. That's it's don't know if I'd remember that from scratch. I'd have to type it every day if it's my kind of my full 40-hour a week job. And I don't know about you, but I am conscious that I'm getting sidetracked. I wouldn't say often, but sometimes by particularly Python little mini AI tutorials and projects, partly out of curiosity and partly because I think it will be useful to know in the short term at least. Maybe in 5 years it will all be replaced, but I think it's good to have some knowledge of AI and how to, especially not just how to use ChatGPT API or even LangChain. I mean, that's just prompt engineering. But I think it's possibly more interesting to start choosing models and manipulating data sets and doing the embeddings, experimenting with different vector databases. Personally, I'm a fan of Quadrant, and I need to go back and use Chroma more, because I think that's probably more suitable especially for sort of tutorials and studying. I think it's quite commonly used. I must admit, I think I've then tried to run before I can walk with some of these things, and again, that's a skill which needs to kind of be quite self-aware and understand whether you're trying to jump too far ahead, and sometimes you just need to take one step back. And especially with let me find it. I do try to keep coming back and do a part of a chapter of this book. Every day really, I just pick a page at random, because I have pretty much covered the book, but I absolutely don't know everything in it, that's for sure. So I try and come back and just pick out a page or two each day. Um, Obviously, Dave McLeod did all the video series on this, so I'm not going to just rehash that. But the design patterns, if anybody's got um, any particular design pattern in mind, especially obviously for Rust, that they would like to see someone else's interpretation of. I'm not saying it would be best. It'd probably be me dumbing things down to my level, but sometimes it's nicer just to see a sort of a pared down version or something. Um, I mean, again, going back to ChatGPT, that can go from sublime to the ridiculous. You'll ask it for one bit of code, and it'll give you you know 6 or 8 lines, and then you ask it for a different version, and then it's probably gone off to Stack Overflow or GitHub or from what is training data and just pulled out something. Still don't trust it. I don't know if I ever will. What do you think? Do you think ChatGPT is you think it takes shortcuts? Because really I've heard people call it a predictive text. Obviously it's got a deeper understanding than that, but I think it does jump to conclusions with the questions you ask, especially with this match self. I know I keep talking about it, but yeah, match self. Match self. Just remember that it works with enums in particular, or quite frequently. And from my point of view, I need to remember to use the right macro when I'm doing format display with my custom types. So there we go. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back